So let's bow in. Tonight we're going to try something new for this class. I'm going to ask you to find the little, down at the bottom of your screen, there should be a button named Reactions. And when you click on that caret, you'll find Recognize Hand Gestures. No, that isn't it either. Barry, what I would like people to do is to put up their hands if they're willing to read, so that we can call on you. And
it's under reactions, but it's not the caret. It's below reaction. It says raise hand.
Oh, there it is. So yeah. Could you maybe put up a hand with a thumb up or something like that, or just the hand, and then I'll know that you're willing to read. And what we're going to do is we're each going to take a turn reading stanzas from the text over here, which I'm going to share. Hold on a second. This is all a little new for this venue. Can you now see this text, The Way of the Bodhisattva?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes or no? Anybody?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to make it bigger. Well, maybe not. I'd like to be able to see who's speaking if we can do that. Can you all see yourselves?
No.
You can't. Hold on.
I don't think it's on your end, John. People have to a side panel with the pictures either to the side or up top or the screen.
Yeah,
So,
if you do.
How's it working for people? I can see myself.
You have to share the screen again.
I can now see the gallery.
Yeah.
That's gallery view?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you share a screen and we're in gallery view, we can see about 4 people.
Right.
And I think that's all the system can do.
4 or 5.
Or 5 maybe.
5 plus
okay.
you.
It depends on the size of your screen.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a large screen and I've got 2 programs up side by side. We'll try.
I can see 25 on one screen, but then I have to forward it because there's 28 people.
No, but that's because you can. Yep. After you do the share screen.
Yeah, go back to the share screen.
And the panel, there's a panel of 4 or 5 people, however many you have, and then you can either move it to the side or move it to the top.
Right.
Each individual person.
When he's on share. Okay.
Okay. Can you see this Way of the Bodhisattva now?
Yeah.
I can see a lot of people.
10, 11.
I can't see anybody except John when the book is on.
I can't see.
Hands on your screen.
Yeah, I did a side by
side gallery.
Side by side gallery, exactly.
Okay. I'm trying to get it up so I can see who's got their hands raised as well as the text.
You can move if you put your cursor in between the text and the gallery, and you move the cursor to your left, you can see more and more of the gallery, and the size of smaller. So you have the option of doing it anyway.
So is this working for people? What you're seeing on the screen now?
Yes.
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 Okay. So what we're going to do is read one stanza at a time. There are a few places where we need to read two because they go together, and we'll sort of figure that out as we go. And then after each stanza, I'm going to comment on the first book, first chapter. We're doing two chapters tonight, the first and the second. And then Michael will comment on the stanzas in the second chapter. And we'll see, we're just an experiment, and we'll see if we can involve people as well. Okay? So this is the way of the Bodhisattva. And we'll start out with, if you wish, with Barry, reading the very first verse. This is, so Barry, you can read this. I'm going to turn the page for you in just a minute.
Was that Barry?
Barry.
Okay. Didn't have the hand raised, but sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Let's go for it. I'm just seeing excellent of bodhicitta, homage to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
Here's the first verse.
Okay. To those who go in bliss, the Dhammakaya they possess and all their heirs. To all who's worthy of respect, I reverently bow. According to the scriptures, I shall now in brief describe the practice of the Bodhisattva discipline.
So this is under the heading of, it says the excellence of bodhicitta, and also this is homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. To those who go in bliss, that is a translation of one of the names for the Buddhas, the Sugatas. Sugatas are, Sukha means bliss, and Gata means go to. And so Sugata is an epithet of the Buddha, those who have gone to bliss or go to bliss. So it's the Buddhas. The Dharmakaya they possess, and all their heirs are the Bodhisattvas. The Dharmakaya literally means the Dharma body of the Buddha, and it refers to reality. It transcends confusion. It has within it all phenomena which have no true existence, are constantly coming and going, just like this gesture that I'm making now, these words that are coming out, whatever you are sensing through your senses is constant display. And this is the Dharmakaya. Everything arises in it and passes away in it. There's a lot more one could say. So the Dharmakaya they possess, and all their heirs, the Bodhisattvas as well. To all those worthy of respect, I reverently bow. And this is, we'll come back to this, but according to the scriptures, I shall now in brief describe the practice of the Bodhisattva discipline. And when he says, to those worthy of respect, I reverently bow, this is the aspiration to basically become a Buddha and a Bodhisattva and to appreciate what they represent, which is both reality, they represent a true understanding of the real world beyond confusion, and they also represent enormous compassion. Compassion means caring for and loving all sentient beings. So, how about, I'm just taking it in order on my pad. Ellen, would you read the next one? And I'll scroll it down for you. Is Ellen here? Or maybe she doesn't want to read. This is a work in progress. Okay. Henry. Can you unmute and Maybe Henry doesn't have her.
Oh, Henry, you were asked to
Oh.
read.
Hi. Okay, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear it come through for some reason. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Here, say nothing that has not been said before.
Keep going.
And in the prosody, I have no skill. I therefore have no thought. This might be of benefit to others. I wrote it only to habituate my mind.
This is his extreme modesty. The art of prosody means the art of rhyming and meter. And he says, in the art of prosody, I have no skill. Although this is written in verse, and especially it was written in Sanskrit, and one assumes that in that language, it had both rhyme and meter. I therefore have no thought that this might be of benefit to others. This is him being modest. I wrote it only to habituate my mind. Okay, let's see. I'm having difficulty with the hands in my list here. If you don't want to read, just say pass. Okay,
John, I could see everybody whose hands up. I could just.
Why don't you call?
Like.
Yeah.
Okay, John Tyler.
All right. My faith will thus be strengthened for a little while, that I might grow accustomed to this virtuous way. But others who now chance upon my words may profit also, equal to myself in fortune.
Sorry. Okay. This seems very straightforward. My faith will thus be strengthened for a little while, that I might grow accustomed to this virtuous way. This is really, he's talking about the path to enlightenment. This text became mammothly huge in the Mahayana tradition of both India and Tibet. It was taken to Tibet by Atisha Dipankara, also much later in about the 12th century, but it appeared there even before that and was translated into Tibetan and was loved by many, many Buddhists. Next person.
Hey, Philip.
So hard to find the ease and wealth whereby the aims of beings may be gained. If now I fail to turn it to my profit, how could such a chance be mine again?
The ease and wealth says, I'm just reading from the footnote, for those of you who haven't. In order to progress toward enlightenment, it is necessary to possess 8 forms of ease or freedom and 10 forms of wealth or endowment. The former, the ease and freedoms, the 8 are the freedom of not being born, 1 in hell realms, 2 as a prey to or hungry ghost, 3 as an animal, 4 in the realms of the gods, 5 among barbarians who are ignorant of the teachings and practices of the Buddha Dharma, and 6 as one with wrong views concerning karma and so forth. 7 in a time and place, being born in a time and place where a Buddha has not appeared, that's very unfortunate, and 8 as mental or physically handicapped. So these are the 8 forms of freedom, to be free of this. The 10 forms of wealth or endowment are subdivided into 5 considered intrinsic and 5 considered extrinsic to the personality. The 5 intrinsic are to be born a human being. This is very fortunate because you can tread the path. To inhabit a central land, i.e. where the Dharma is proclaimed. To be in possession of normal faculties, eyes, ears, and so forth. To be one who is not karmically inclined to great negativity, and to have faith in the Dharma. The 5 extrinsic endowments are the facts that 1, a Buddha has appeared to the universe in which one is living, and at an accessible time, that he or she has expounded the doctrine, that the doctrine will persist, that it is practiced, and that one has been accepted as a disciple by a spiritual master or tradition. So these are the elements of ease and wealth, and they're the good fortune that we, in fact, possess, all of us.
Hey, Frederick. Unmute.
That would help. Just as on a dark night, black with clouds, the sudden lightning glares and all is clearly shown. Likewise, rarely, through the Buddhist power, virtuous thoughts rise, brief and transient in the world.
This is one of probably the most famous stanza in this document of all, most famous of all. Just as on a dark night, black with clouds, sudden lightning glares, and all is shown. This was referring to the brief moments of insight that come to us and illuminate our way and give us inspiration to tread the path because we've seen something. They may come very briefly, they may come longer. It's completely individual. Each one of us experiences this. And likewise, through the Buddha, rarely, once in a while, through the Buddha's power, virtuous thoughts arise, brief and transient in the world. Okay, let's read another.
Virtue thus is weak, and always evil is of great and overwhelming strength, except for the perfect bodhicitta. What other virtue is there that can lay it low?
Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, we'll come to this. It has two aspects. One is your ability to come completely present in this present moment. We could take a moment right now and just do this to whatever degree. Let's just take a good posture, each one of us. And bring your mind, the meditation posture, as it were, wherever you happen to be sitting, and bring your mind completely here, in the present moment, relaxed, effortless, awake. This, you might say, is the core of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta literally means awakened mind or heart. Chitta is a word that is ambiguous. The mind resides in the chest, here where the heart is. And chitta refers both to compassion and to wisdom in the mind, the chitta. And bodhi, of course, is awake. So we're arousing bodhicitta, and we're coming back into this present moment and just resting here. It's effortless. Effort only obscures it. The more we do it, the more we begin to recognize it. And then the other aspect of it is, as we'll come to, that it contains compassion. Compassion for all sentient beings. That we begin to develop the more we come back into the present and out of our egos. Okay, next person.
Quadro.
For many eons, deeply pondering, the mighty sages saw its benefits, whereby unnumbered multitudes are brought with ease to supreme joy.
The mighty sages, this is the Munis, they're called. And that's in Sanskrit. And it's an epithet of Buddhas. The Tibetan is Tuppa or Tupwang, which means power holders. And they saw the benefit of bodhicitta, whereby unnumbered multitudes are brought with ease to supreme joy, because this state of mind is the mind of freedom. Sometimes when you're very anxious, you can meditate and come back to awareness of an object, and you achieve freedom from that anxiety, those thoughts that are making you unhappy. This goes to that degree and beyond, because you're coming back to absolute reality, devoid of self and other.
I don't have to go out anymore, do you? Okay.
Who's going to read next? Barry?
Emily.
Can you advance it? I think.
I'm sorry.
Those who would wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, who wish to have experience of a myriad joys, should never turn away from bodhicitta.
This is bodhicitta, it's awakened mind, it's awakened compassion. And so it seems obvious. Did we miss a stanza? Stanza 6?
I think we did.
Let's read it now. Who would like to read?
Mary. How about Sarah?
Virtue thus is weak, and always evil is of great and overwhelming strength, except for perfect bodhicitta. What other virtue is there that can lay it low?
Only bodhicitta fundamentally attacks and lays low evil with its overwhelming strength. Evil is egocentricity, manipulation of the world for ego's purposes. Bodhicitta, by coming back into awareness, you step out of it and you contact reality and open-heartedness. So number 8.
Robert.
Those who wish to crush the many sorrows of existence, who wish to quell the pain of living beings, who wish to have experience of a myriad joys, should never turn away from bodhicitta.
I mean, this is our path. This is really what we have to do. If we wish to crush the many sorrows of our existence and quell the pain of our own lives and that of others, and experience the myriad joys of life, it's bodhicitta that enables that. Bodhicitta, awakened mind. Right?
Meg.
Should bodhicitta come to birth in those who suffer chained in prisons of samsara, in that instance they are called the children of the blissful one, revered by all the world, by gods and humankind.
Yeah, that seems very straightforward. The blissful one again is the Sugata, the Buddha, or Buddhas. Okay.
Ed.
For like the supreme substance of the alchemists, it takes our impure flesh and makes of it the body of a Buddha, jewel beyond all price. Such is bodhicitta, let us grasp it firmly.
And this is what enables the twofold aim of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas: to achieve enlightenment for themselves for the benefit of all sentient beings. So there's benefit of self and benefit of others.
And we're almost at the end. If anybody else would like to read, do the little hand raising thing, or if you'd like to read again.
No, you can still have people who haven't read.
We got two more, and Mark is next.
Okay.
Since the boundless wisdom of the only guide of beings perfectly examined and perceived its priceless worth, those who wish to leave this state of wandering should hold well to this precious bodhicitta.
The only guide of beings is reference to the Buddha, who perfectly examined and perceived bodhicitta's priceless worth, awakened mind's priceless worth. Next.
Danielle? Danielle?
You're muted.
You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, my computer wasn't working. All other virtues, like the plantain tree, produce their fruit, but then their force is spent. Alone, the marvelous tree of bodhicitta constantly bears fruit and grows unceasingly.
Yeah. And produces Buddhahood, only bodhicitta, endlessly.
Jenny.
As though they pass through perils guarded by a hero, even those weighed down with dreadful wickedness will instantly be freed through having bodhicitta. Why do those who fear their sins not have recourse to it?
The hero is the Buddha, or any of the Buddhas, enlightened beings. And they're guarded by a Buddha, a hero, as they pass through perils.
And Philip.
Just as the fire that will destroy the world, great sins are surely and at once consumed by it. Its benefits are thus unbounded, as the wise and loving Lord explained to Sudhana.
The wise and loving Lord is the Buddha of the future, Maitreya. And he explained this to the disciple Sudhana, that there are three main benefits of bodhicitta. And one is it causes one to attain Buddhahood. That's probably the main benefit. Two, it increases virtue because you act selflessly and virtuously. And three, it purifies evil, which is the selfishness of egohood. Okay.
Steve.
Bodhicitta, the awakened mind, is known in brief to have two aspects. First, aspiring bodhicitta in intention, then active bodhicitta, practical engagement.
So bodhicitta itself has two main aims, you might say. One is compassion for all sentient beings. And the other is the wisdom that produces enlightenment. In this regard, it has two more new aspects. There's the bodhicitta, well, I'm jumping, no, we've just done that. The bodhicitta of intention and the bodhicitta of engagement or activities. And what this means is it's kind of, the analogy is like you have an intention to take a trip and then you get in your car and you do it. So the bodhisattva and the bodhicitta of intention is the intention to be awake and to have compassion. And the bodhicitta of engagement is doing it, waking up and living a life of service and compassion and love for all sentient beings. Next person.
Woodrow.
As corresponding to the wish to go and then to setting out, the wise should understand respectively the difference that divides these two.
This is just what I just said. The intention and then the actual doing of it. So this is the two aspects of bodhicitta.
Henry.
From bodhicitta in intention, great results arise for those still turning in the wheel of life. Yet merit does not rise from it in ceaseless streams, as is the case with active bodhicitta.
So what this is saying is that when you have the intention to wake up and the intention to be of benefit, merit arises from it, but not in the ceaseless streams that it will when you're actually doing it. Even the intention produces merit in you and will make you happier and wiser. But then the actual act is much more profound.
Okay, Frederick.
For when, with irreversible intent, the mind embraces bodhicitta, willing to set free the endless multitudes of beings, in that instant, from that moment on,
keep reading.
A great and unremitting stream, a strength of wholesome merit, even during sleep and in intention, rises equal to the vastness of the sky.
The strength of wholesome merit. We're really being enjoined to have a very different life, a life of love and compassion and constant inspiration to be of benefit to others. And there are three ways of being of benefit. The first way, have I said this before, is providing material benefit, food, clothing, shelter. The second and more profound way is to protect people from fear, sentient beings from fear. And the third way is to teach or spread in one way or another the Dharma, true spirituality, selflessness, and awakening. We're really being enjoined to make a huge commitment that he's asking us to in our own minds and in our bodies and lives. Okay, who's next?
Emily, but got to scroll to the next page, John.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if I can. Is there another page? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 24 people on this page.
No. I mean the text. You're.
Oh, I'm sorry, in the text.
So, Emily, you're up.
Okay. Excuse me if my pronunciation is not perfect. This the Tathagata in the Sutra Subahu requested, said with reasoned argument for those inclined to lesser paths.
Yeah. This is the Sutra of the questions of Subahu. And a sutra is a dialogue between the Buddha and one or more of his disciples or students. Okay, next.
John Tyler.
I don't think Mark has read too either. Razi.
If with kindly generosity one merely has the wish to soothe the aching heads of other beings, such merit knows no bounds.
Next.
Mark.
No need to speak then of the wish. to drive away the endless pain of each and every living being, bringing them unbounded excellence.
So you can do good acts. You know, you can deliver food to the poor. You can tend to the sick. And all of that is wonderful, creates merit for you and for others. But it says, no need to speak then of the wish to drive away the endless pain of each and every living being, bringing them unbounded excellence. And this is the wish to achieve enlightenment for oneself so that one then can share it with others. And even before achieving enlightenment, to just achieve greater and greater sanity of coming present into this present moment with wisdom, clarity, and heart. Next.
Sarah.
Could our father or our mother ever have so generous a wish? Oh, wait. Sorry, I think I missed.
No, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, I'll start again. Could our father or our mother ever have so generous a wish? Do the very gods, the rishis, even Brahma, harbor such benevolence as this?
The gods and the rishis are the wise yogi practitioners who have achieved enlightenment. And Brahma is one of the trinity of gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is the creator of the world, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the destroyer. And Brahma has abodes, the Brahma Viharas. And the Brahma Viharas are another name for the practice that we do every morning when we wish all sentient beings to achieve happiness and equanimity and so forth. Those are called the four, one name for those is the four Brahma abodes of Brahma. So do the very gods, the rishis, even Brahma harbor such benevolence as this? And the answer is no. Bodhicitta surpasses all.
Yeah. Philip.
For in the past, they never, even in their dreams, wished something like this, even for themselves. How could they do so for another's sake?
Great. This is the extreme excellence, superiority of bodhicitta. Next, 25.
Steve.
This aim to bring the benefit of beings, a benefit that others wish not even for themselves, this noble jewel-like state of mind.
Oops, sorry.
Arises truly wondrous, never seen before.
And this is bodhicitta. This is awakened mind, enlightened mind, the mind of awakening. Next.
Lodra.
This pain-dispelling draught, this cause of joy for those who wander through the world, this precious attitude, this jewel of mind, how shall we calculate its merit?
Keep going. Next person.
You have to scroll it.
Oops.
John.
That's right.
Emily.
If the simple thought to be of help to others exceeds in worth the worship of the Buddhas, what need is there to speak of actual deeds that bring about the weal and benefit of beings?
Yeah. So this again is the intent and the actual bodhicitta, intent and action. And the weal and benefit of beings is the twofold enlightenment of enlightenment and compassion. Next.
Mark.
For beings long to free themselves from misery, but misery itself they follow and pursue.
Oops.
They long for joy, but in their ignorance destroy it, as they would their foe.
And this is confused samsaric beings as opposed to bodhisattvas. So we're being enjoined to become bodhisattvas.
Philip?
But those who fill with bliss all beings destitute of joy, who cut all pain and suffering away from those weighted down in misery, who drive away the darkness of their ignorance, what virtue could be matched with theirs? What friend could be compared to them? What merit is there similar to this?
So this is as radical as it gets. This is the excellence of bodhicitta, this chapter. Oops, I must have been reading from the text, from a book. Okay.
Steve?
If someone who returns a favor is deserving of some praise, why need we speak of bodhisattvas? Next. Those who do good, even unsolicited.
Right. Okay.
Lodro.
People praise as virtuous donors those who with contempt support a few with plain and ordinary food, a moment's gift that feeds for only half.
Keep going.
What need is there to speak of those who long bestow on countless multitudes the peerless joy of blissful Buddhahood, the ultimate fulfillment of their hopes?
Okay. I think Robert Byrd, I don't think you've spoken.
No, he's coming up.
I can go, if not. All those who harbor evil in their minds against such lords of generosity, the Buddha's heirs, will stay in hell, the mighty sage has said, for ages equal to the moments of their malice.
And that's pretty severe. We don't want to go there.
Okay.
Okay.
Emily.
But joyous and devoted thoughts will yield abundant fruits in greater strength. Even in great trouble, bodhisattvas never bring forth wrong. Their virtues naturally increase.
Next.
Mark.
To them in whom this precious jewel of mind is born, to them I bow. I go for refuge to those springs of happiness, who bring their very enemies to perfect bliss.
Okay. And I turn it over to Michael.
Okay, and we could move on to the next chapter, which is titled Confession, but in reality involves the beginnings of what's traditionally called the Sevenfold Service, which is a set of Mahayana practices: prostrating, offering, confessing, requesting to teach, rejoicing, and asking to remain. In particular, this chapter will work with the first three: prostrating, offering, and confessing. Now, if someone could read, in some cases, I'm going to ask people to read several verses for reasons that I think will become clear as we go along. But if someone could read the first verse.
Okay, how about Philip?
To the Buddhas, those thus gone, and to the sacred Dharma, spotless and supremely rare, and to the Buddha's offspring, oceans of good qualities, that I might gain this precious attitude, I make a perfect offering.
Okay, that I might gain this precious attitude. There are different schools of thought in the Mahayana in terms of how to develop and even what it means to develop or experience bodhicitta. But the basic idea is that bodhicitta arises through causes and conditions. with the primary one being the accumulation of merit, which is gained through offering as well as by prostrating and confessing. I think it's really tricky to understand sometimes exactly what this means because of some of our Western theistic ideas around sin and an external deity, and so who somehow keeps track of what we do for better or worse. But so it's really important to have some understanding of merit and in relation to karma, or causes and conditions. And the idea basically is that the conditions that we experience are created by the actions that we take, actions of body, speech, and mind. Karma can be really difficult to understand, and ultimately it said only an enlightened Buddha can understand karma. But there are certain aspects of karma that can make sense to us. It's easy to understand something about habituation, that when we repeat an action over and over, it becomes more likely that we'll do it again. It's easy to see how certain kinds of habits of mind and emotion in particular can really color how we perceive things, how we think about ourselves, what we identify with, what we don't identify with. And all of these are kind of different ways, perhaps in a more psychological sense, of understanding what karma is, and in particular, what merit is. The idea of accumulating merit is bringing about the causes and conditions that allow us to let go of, or purify, or free ourselves, you could say, from what the Mahayana, and even more so the Vajrayana, consider adventitious stains. That our basic nature is always pure and unstained, but it's obscured, covered over, like the sun covered by clouds. There's all kinds of metaphors for this. A golden statue covered in mud. In itself, it's not affected. The sun is not affected by the clouds. The gold statue is in no way actually stained by the mud. But it's unrecognized, it's obscured. And so long as it's obscured and not recognized, then we're stuck in, our habitual patterns. And that's really the idea here. And so it's important to understand that in this particular chapter, it goes in the order of offering, prostrating, and confessing, that each one of these are actual practices that we can engage in. And I would invite people to actually do that, as an individual reads the different verses, that we actually imagine, just as it says, that we're actually doing what Shantideva describes. The idea of offering, for instance, each one of the different parts of the sevenfold service act as remedies or antidotes. It's not hard to see how offering would be an antidote to attachment, to self-clinging, to self-cherishing. And that's exactly how it's supposed to work. So it's not an empty ritual, it's an actual practice. And we can actually engage in it as we go through this chapter. There are different types of offerings, and what I'll ask people to do is read, as I say, just different selections of verses that relate to the different types of offerings. But the idea as we go through is to literally imagine that we are actually making these offerings to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And as Pema says, the particular idea here in terms of offering to the three jewels, the point is really the resonance of wakefulness, the wakefulness that is seemingly out there, that we imagine is in something external to us, but is actually resonates with the wakefulness that's seemingly in here. And she says seeming because either kind of division into self or other is ultimately illusory. But the important point is that the veneration of any example of wisdom summons our own openness and brings out our best. So again, we should really think of the offering as a practice. And as we go through, if we find ourselves resisting in some way or questioning in some way, then we look at that as well. It's really an opportunity to open ourselves and to see where we're stuck in a way that is, again, quite traditional. So the first verses 2 through 6 are what are traditionally called offerings of things unowned. Basically, what we're offering is nature's bounty. And the idea is that we offer this even if we have nothing else, because we can offer through imagination, we can offer mentally, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And the idea is that we make infinite offerings, that we imagine the very best, the most beautiful, in terms of this first set of offerings in verses 2 through 6, that we imagine the very best of whatever our experience of the natural world is. And we present that to the Buddhas, and we present that to the Dharma, we present it to the Sangha, particularly the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. So if someone could volunteer to read verses 2 through 6, and again, this is a practice.
I can.
Thank you.
I offer every fruit and flower, every kind of healing draught, and all the precious gems the world contains, with all pure waters of refreshment. Every mountain wrought of precious jewels, all sweet and lonely forest groves, the trees of paradise adorned with blossom, trees with branches bowed with perfect fruit, the perfumed fragrance of divine and other realms, all incense, wishing trees, and trees of gems, all crops that grow without the tiller's care, and every sumptuous object worthy to be offered. Lakes and meres adorned with lotuses, delightful with the sweet-voiced cries of water birds, and everything unclaimed and free, extending to the margins of the boundless sky. I hold them all before my mind, and to the mighty sage, the greatest of our kind, and to his heirs, I make a perfect offering. Sublime recipients, compassionate lords, oh, think of me with love. Accept these gifts of mine.
Thank you. And in making these offerings, we are, again, letting go of attachment, letting go of self-clinging, self-cherishing. We're offering with the intention that we may give birth to bodhicitta, that we may give birth to the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And having read the first chapter, we have some sense of what the immensity of this wish is. As I said in the first chapter, if even just the small intention of alleviating a headache brings merit, the immensity of what we're doing through developing bodhicitta, developing this intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings is massive, immeasurable, and inconceivable. And the point that, that's made in traditional texts is even modest offerings can have tremendous benefit, provided that they're done with this enlightened intention, the intention to develop Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So could someone read verse 7?
We could call on people as we were doing before, if you'd like.
Yeah, just verse 7.
Several people have hands up, so
yes.
How about Philip?
Okay, go ahead.
Poor, destitute of merit, I am very poor. I have no other wealth. And so, protectors, you whose wise intentions are for others' good, in your great power, receive them for my sake.
Okay, so here Shantideva is speaking for himself. At this point in his life, was basically a poor monk, and also felt that basically that he was destitute of merit. So was poor in terms of merit as well as in terms of material things. But again, the desire to develop bodhicitta, in the saying, I have no other wealth, and so protectors, which again is the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Even though he's giving everything away that he can imagine, ultimately, what he's receiving is so powerful, so beneficial that It's given away without any reference to self, but it has tremendous benefit to oneself. So the next verses 8 and 9, basically, he'll make the offering of himself as a servant of the Buddha, as a servant of one who will undertake the practices to wake up and undertake the Bodhisattva intention of working for the benefit of all sentient beings. So if someone could read verses 8 and 9.
Dan.
Enlightened ones and all your Bodhisattva heirs, I offer you my body throughout all my lives. Supreme courageous ones, accept me totally. For with devotion I will be your slave. For if you will accept me, I will be undaunted by samsara and will act for being safe. I'll leave behind the evils of my past and ever after turn my face from them.
So again, with these verses, he literally offers himself. We could consider our willingness to do the same thing for the sake of all sentient beings. We're willing to accept this degree of surrender. So basically, this is the offering of himself and also his commitment to bodhicitta, commitment to developing bodhicitta, and commitment to working for the benefit of all sentient beings. Verses 10 to 13, which is the next set of offerings, is really the offering of a ceremonial bath. And from what I've read, this is kind of a traditional Indian offering. So it comes out of Indian culture. But we can think of it again in terms of purifying all of the things that obscure our Buddha nature, our awakened mind, all the habitual clinging, fixations, that we get stuck in. Although what he's will be doing is imagining bathing the Buddha and bodhisattvas. And again, it's with the imagination that we're giving the very best, the most beautiful, the most sublime, and that we're just letting go of any sense of holding on to anything for ourselves. Someone could read verses 10 to 13.
Sarah.
A bathing chamber excellently fragrant, with even floors of crystal, radiant and clear, and graceful pillars shimmering with gems, all hung about with gleaming canopies of pearls. There the blissful Buddhas and their heirs, I'll bathe with many a precious face.
Next page.
Yeah.
Abrim with water fragrant and delightful, all to frequent strains of melody and song. With cloths of unexampled quality, with spotless perfumed towels I will dry them, and offer splendid scented clothes, well dyed and of surpassing excellence. With different garments light and supple, and 100 beautiful adornments, I will grace sublime Samantabhadra, Manju Ghosha, Lokeshwara, and their kin.
So Samantabhadra, Manjughosha or Manjushri, Lokeshvara is Avalokiteshvara. They're different bodhisattvas, and some of these names will come up again. Each bodhisattva has a particular quality that they're associated with. Samantabhadra is connected in particular with pure offering and unlimited offering as well. Manjushri or Manjughosha is the bodhisattva of wisdom and was the Yidam or deity for Shantideva himself. And it is said that before he presented the way of the bodhisattva, that he spent the night before supplicating Manjushri. And Avalokiteshvara is the bodhisattva of compassion. So we could think of all of these things, all of these beings as external to us. And in one sense, they are certainly historically, but they also represent qualities of enlightened mind that we ourselves possess, whether we recognize that or not. The next set of verses, 14 through 19, represent the offerings of pleasant substances. So these are going to be things like flowers, incense, lamps, palaces, parasols, and each one has, they have different symbolic meaning. So, for instance, Pema says that traditionally each offering is understood to cultivate a specific quality. That flowers, for instance, relate to development of love and compassion, something about the selfless beauty of flowers. That incense involves the development of discipline, the perfume of discipline, as well as dispelling the distress of sentient beings. That offering of lamps and light connects with waking up, with development of wisdom and insight. That palaces relate to the development or the experience of harmonious community. And the parasols represent the actions of literally protecting and guarding sentient beings, protecting them from harm, particularly the harm ultimately from our own unbridled kleshas. In other words, it's not simply protecting from external harm, but from the point of view of Shantideva, and we'll really see this in some of the later chapters. Some of the greatest harm actually comes from our unrecognized and unworked with habitual patterns, and that actually represents the greatest danger to us. So if someone could read verses 14 to 19. Yeah. The idea again is to actually imagine that we're making these offerings, we're trying to connect with the open state of mind, letting go and experiencing these qualities that both exist in us, but also are represented by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So verses 14 to 19.
And with a sumptuous fragrance which pervades 1,000 million worlds, I will anoint the bodies of the mighty sages, gleaming bright like burnished gold, refined and cleansed. I place before the mighty sages perfect objects of my worship, glorious flowers like lotus and mandarava, the utpala and other fragrant blossoms, worked and twined in lovely scented garlands. I will offer swelling clouds of frankincense, whose ambient perfume ravishes the mind, and various foods and every kind of drink, all delicacies worthy of the gods. I will offer precious lamps arranged in rows on lotuses of gold, a carpet of sweet flowers scattering upon the level incense-sprinkled ground. To those whose very nature is compassion, I will give vast palaces, resounding with fair praise, all decked with precious pearls and beauteous pendant gems, gleaming jewels that deck the amplitude of space. Fair and precious parasols, adorned with golden shafts, all bordered round with hems of precious jewels, upright, well-proportioned, pleasing to the eye. Again, all this I give to all the Buddhas.
Okay. The next set of offerings, which would be verses 20 through 22, are offerings made through the power of aspiration. Mainly this is represented by music and a rain of flowers, as well as light, luminosity. And basically, this actually represents the teachings themselves. It's the teaching of Dharma, which both soothes and inspires, guides us, protects us. And it's considered the offering made through the power of aspiration. So if somebody could read verses 20 through 22.
May a host of other offerings and clouds of ravishing sweet melody that solaces the pain of living beings arise and constantly abide. May rains of flowers and every precious gem fall down in an unceasing stream upon the jewels of sacred Dharma, images and all supports for offering. Just as Manjugosha and the like made offerings to all the conquerors, I do likewise to all the Buddhas, our protectors, and to all the Bodhisattva children.
Thank you. So again, we're continuing to make offerings to the three jewels, but again, it's at the same time coming to recognize our potential as potential future Buddhas. Verse 23 is the offering of praise. And with this, we're offering our complete appreciation that the Buddha and Bodhisattvas exist in our world, have come to teach us, have come to help us and benefit us. So it's an offering of praise. There's a real sense of recognition of our appreciation of the teachings, and of the power of the teachings, and of the compassion of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So if someone could read verse 23.
Is John Tyler?
To those vast oceans of good qualities, I offer praise, a sea of airs and harmonies. May clouds of tuneful eulogy ascend unceasingly before them.
So with that, this actually completes the offerings. I just want to read one section about this offering practice before we move on to prostrating, which is the next set of verses. And this is from a commentary on the Way of the Bodhisattva titled The Nectar of Manjushri's Speech. Shantideva himself was a yogi whose spiritual practice and manner of life were of an extreme simplicity. He did not teach extensively about actual material offerings. Offerings imagined by the mind, on the other hand, are the best way to complete the great accumulation of merit without difficulty. Such is the offering of a bodhisattva skilled in means. We should therefore refrain from thinking that such offerings are unimportant and instead meditate upon them repeatedly. It is not necessary, however, to concentrate upon them uninterruptedly as we would with a Yidam deity. If we hold the offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas before our minds for brief moments, it is not necessary to labor hard and exhaust ourselves in order to gather a great stock of merit. Thus, the accumulations will be complete, defilements will be purified, and bodhicitta will arise in our minds. We will understand the teachings and remember them, and every other excellent quality will arise. It is important, therefore, to visualize all such offerings repeatedly, for this is of the greatest benefit and is easy to do. It is said that if we make such offerings, they are more vast and pure than any other offering deriving from wrong livelihood, from negative actions, or from offerings made with pride and ostentation. So, again, the offering, even just making these mental offerings, is a powerful practice. So the next set of verses relate to prostrating, which is actually fairly short. There's just 3 verses. But the idea of prostrating is that, again, just as offering was a remedy to attachment, self-clinging, self-cherishing, miserliness, whatever you want to call it. The prostrating is a way of overcoming arrogance. It's a practice to surrender to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. It's a question of, it's a practice for overcoming resistance and pride. That ultimately prostrating is a practice of letting go. And the idea here is that we're bowing to all that supports bodhicitta, and that we are at the same time holding the aspiration. And again, we could just mentally imagine prostrating if you would like. Again, this is a practice. It's not just a ritual. But that we could do this for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings become enlightened. May all beings develop bodhicitta. So with that, would someone read verses 24 to 26?
Good.
To Buddhas of the past, the present, and all future time, and to the Dharma and sublime assembly, with bodies many as the grains of dust upon the earth, I will prostrate and bow. To shrines and all supports of bodhicitta, I bow down. To abbots who transmit the vows, to every learned master, and to all sublime practitioners of Dharma. Until the essence of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the Buddhas. Also, I take refuge in the Dharma and all the host of bodhisattvas.
I gotta talk to you. I gotta talk.
Not
I don't
now.
see Goldberg's name down tomorrow.
Okay. So,
What? I don't know what you're saying. We have to talk.
Okay, I think we're good now.
Okay, good. So to perfect Bodhisattva, to perfect Buddhas and to Bodhisattvas in all directions where they may reside, to them who are sovereigns of great mercy, I press my palms together, praying thus. So we could read verse 28.
Henry.
This and all my other lives while turning in the round without beginning. Blindly I have brought forth evil, did others to commit the same.
Okay, so here we're beginning with confession, and it's traditionally said that there are the confession in the Buddhist sense, which again is not a question of self-debasement or self-denigration of any kind. It's really a way of trying to overcome our habituation to ego clinging, our habituation to passion, aggression, and ignorance, to the kleshas. And confession basically depends traditionally on what are called the four powers. The first is the power of regret, or you could call it the recognition of misdeeds. It's just seeing that we've done things that are harmful to ourselves and harmful to others. The second is the power of reliance, or sometimes it's called the reliance on basic wisdom. The third is the power of remedial action, or the power of an action as an antidote. It's doing something that goes against the habitual the habitual patterns that we get caught up in. So with these verses, we begin the actual process of confessing, and this actually carries through to the end of the chapter. But if someone could read verses 27 through 29.
Steve.
To perfect Buddhas and to Bodhisattvas in all directions where they may reside, to them who are the sovereigns of great mercy, I press my palms together, praying thus. In this and all my other lives, while turning in the round without beginning, blindly I have brought forth evil and incited others to commit the same. Deceived and overmastered by my ignorance, I have taken pleasure in such sin. And seeing now the blame of it, O great protectors, I confess it earnestly.
Okay, you'll see that there's a footnote there, footnote 40, where the translators talk about what they mean by using the word sin, which obviously is loaded for those of us in Western culture who come out of the Judeo-Christian tradition. But basically, the idea is, Trungpa Rinpoche actually favored a different term. He called them neurotic crimes. They're the things that we do based on passion, aggression, and ignorance due to delusion. As he said in the in the verses that were just read, things that I've done blindly, deceived and overmastered by my ignorance. And then actually taking pleasure in it. It's thinking that acting on passion, aggression, and ignorance actually brings me some kind of benefit. But now, as he says, he sees the blame of it. And for that reason, he confesses. Again, not because he sees himself as such a horrible person, but he realizes that he regrets these actions and that he needs to let go. He wishes to be free of them. So we could read verses 30 and 31.
Audrey.
Whatever I have done against the triple gem, against my parents, teachers, and the rest, through force of my defilements in my body, speech, and mind, all the evil I, a sinner, have committed, all the wicked deeds that cling to me, the frightful things that I contrived, I openly declare to you, the teachers of the world.
So again, here we have this expression of regret, the feeling that beginning to realize how acting on passion, aggression, and ignorance lead to greater suffering for self and other. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask somebody now to read the next set of verses in just a moment. So we're up to 32, up through verse 46. Basically, in the next set of verses, he's going to be talking about the reality of death and dying. That first of all, that we might die before we've had the opportunity to work with, become free of these habitual patterns, that these habitual patterns, these neurotic crimes, these sins, if you want to call them that, will follow us from lifetime to lifetime if we are willing to accept the idea of rebirth. When we actually look at what we spend so much of our time on in terms of worldly pursuits and all of the struggle and all of the neurotic crimes we commit on the basis of the typical worldly pursuits, or what are considered the worldly concerns, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and infamy, pleasure and pain, that all of these pursuits in the end leave us with nothing that we really bring with us, whereas karma does go with us. It's exactly as in the reminders. So this is a fairly extended contemplation, you could say, about the reality of death, and how in waking up to how neurotic crimes or sin can affect us, why we would experience the power of regret. So if someone could read 32 through 46.
Philip.
It may be that my death will come to me before my evil has been cleansed. How then can I be freed from it? I pray you, quickly grant me your protection. We cannot trust the wanton Lord of death. The task complete or still to do, he will not wait. In health or sickness, therefore, none of us can trust our fleeting momentary lives. And we must pass away, forsaking all. But I, devoid of understanding, have, for sake of friend and foe alike, provoked and brought about so many wrongs. But all my foes will cease to be, and all my friends will cease to be, and I will also cease to be, and likewise everything will cease to be. And all that I possess and use is like the fleeting vision of a dream. It fades into the realms of memory, and fading will be seen no more. And even in the brief course of this present life, so many friends and foes have passed away, because of whom the evils I have done still lie unbearable before me. The thought came never to my mind that I too am a brief and passing thing, and so through hatred, lust, and ignorance, I have committed many sins. Never halting night or day, my life drains constantly away, and from no other source does increase come. How can there not be death for such as me? There I'll be, prostrate upon my bed, and all around my family and friends, but I alone shall be the one to feel the cutting of the thread of life. And when the heralds of the deadly king have gripped me, what help to me will be my friends and kin? For then life's virtue is my one defense, and this, alas, is what I shrugged away. O protectors, I, so little heeding, hardly guessed at horror such as this. And all for this brief, transient existence, I have done so many evil things. The day they take him to the scaffold, where they will tear off his limbs, a man is changed, transfigured by his fear. His mouth is dry, his eyes start from his brow. No need to say how stricken I shall be when overcome and sick with dreadful fear. I'm seized by forms so horrible to see, the frightful servants of the Lord of death. Who can give me safe protection from this horror, from this frightful dread? And then I'll search the four directions, seeking help with panic-stricken eyes. But in those four directions, no protection shall I find. and I shall sink into despairing woe. No refuge will there be for me at such a time. What shall I do?
So all of this, again, is a practice or a contemplation and experiencing something of the power of regret. I'll also point out just in verse 36 where he says, all that I possess and use is like the fleeting vision of a dream, that not only at the moment of death does all that we might have worked for in terms of the worldly concerns fade away. We literally can't take it with us. That even if we think about from day to day, year to year, how what's so important to us at one time in our life becomes meaningless at another point, just becomes dreamlike, illusory. And in that sense, even still, we come face to face with the reality of impermanence. The next set of verses, 47 to 52, relate to the power of support, which basically, in one sense, talks about the support that we get, that we get through our study and understanding of the Dharma, our practice of meditation, through taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. But ultimately, the ultimate support is refuge in our awakened mind. And this, as you'll see, this is what scatters every fear. So if someone could read verses 47 to 52.
Mark.
Thus, from this day forward, I take refuge in the Buddhas, guardians of beings, who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. And in the Dharma they have realized in their hearts, which drives away the terrors of samsara. And in all the host of bodhisattvas, likewise I will perfectly take refuge. Gripped by dread beside myself with anguish, to Samanta Bhadra, I will give myself. My body, I myself will give. To Manjugosha, gentle and melodious. To him whose deeds of mercy never fail, my Lord Avalokita, I cry out from depths of misery. Protect me now, an evildoer. Now to the noble one, Akasha Garbha, and to Kashita Garbha, from my heart I call, to all protectors, great, compassionate, I cry to them in search of refuge. To Vajrapani I shall fly for all the sight of him. All vengeful things like Yama's host, escaping the terror to the four directions.
Okay, the next set of verses, 53 to 64, relate to the third power, the power of remedial practice. So this is everything that we might do in terms of Dharma practice, including what we've talked about tonight, offering, prostrating, and confessing, meditation practice, Tonglen practice, everything that goes as an antidote or goes against, reverses, the habitual patterns that keep us locked in ignorance. So if someone could read verses 53 to 64 relating to the remedial practice.
Formally, your words I have transgressed, but having seen these terrors all around, I come to you for refuge, praying, swiftly drive away my fear. For if, alarmed by common ailments, I must implement the doctor's words, what need to speak of when I am constantly brought low by ills like lust and faults and 100-fold? And if by one of these alone, the dwellers in the world are all thrown down, and if no other remedy exists, no other dealing elsewhere to be found, then words of the all-knowing doctor, which uproot our every ill, the thought to turn on him deaf ears is abject and contemptible stupidity. Along a small and ordinary cliff, if I must pick my way with special care, what need to speak of that long-lasting chasm plunging to the depths of 1,000 leagues? Today, at last, I shall not die. So rash to lull myself with these words, my dissolution and my hour of death will come to me, of this there is no doubt. Who can give me fearlessness? What sure escape is there from this? It's certain that I'm going to die, so how can I relax my mind at ease? Of life's experience, all seasons past, what's left to me, what now remains? My clinging to what now is here no more, my teacher's precepts I have disobeyed. And when this life is left behind, and with all my kith and kin, I must set out on strange paths all alone. Why make so much of all my friends and foes? How instead can I make sure to rid myself of evil, only cause of sorrow? This should be my one concern, my only thought, both night and day. The wrongs that I have done through ignorant stupidity, all actions evil by their nature and transgressions of the precepts. Fearing all the pains to come, I join my palms and ceaselessly prostrate, and everything I will confess directly in the sight of my protectors.
So again, this refers to the importance of taking our practice seriously, really looking and thinking about our intentions. And again, the example given is of the Buddha being like a physician, and how foolish we would be if we had some illness and we didn't work with the physician to cure us. The final verse, 65, relates to the final power, which, and it literally comes down to the very last line. And this is the power of resolve, or the power of promise, where we basically make some commitment not to engage in whatever negative action we engaged in, that we resolve not to do it again. So someone could just read verse 65 and then we will be complete.
No, Drew.
I pray you, guides and guardians of the world, to take me as I am, a sinful man, and all these actions, evil as they are, I promise I will never do again.
And with that, we have completed the chapter on confession. Again, offering, prostrating, confessing are actual practices, and they're meant to help us begin to let go of all of the things that obscure our true nature, that cover it over, and so are, important, powerful practices to help us let go and open up. And actually, we're a little over time, so I think we actually need to conclude at this point.
So let's see who we're going to have lead the chants. Everybody would mute.
Rip is volunteering.
Who is?
If you can put them up, I can finish up tonight.
Okay. Everybody else mute, please. Barry.
John, can you put up the chants, please?
Can you see them?
No.
That's strange.
There we go.
Still Shantideva.
No, wait a minute. Sorry. Right.
John, I think I can put them up if you'd like.
How's that?
Great. Great. We will close by saying a prayer for peace and dedicating the merit earned by our practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. By the blessings of enlightened and compassionate ones, by the power of my positive actions of 3 times and my prayers of pure aspiration, may wars, conflicts, epidemics, and all other maladies dissolve in this world, and may the earth and all who live on this earth enjoy the abundance of well-being. May all learn to live lovingly with each other. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great East, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom, may the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled, may all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thank you, John and Michael and everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Morning.
Hey, Michael, do you have a second before you go?
Sure.
I don't want to confound everyone while they're leaving. It's Robert. That's who I'm at. That's who's